multiple tracks of slop. And I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm just saying this is something I've dealt with
He doesn't
a
have
lot
to,
of
guys.
times.
He doesn't have to. No.
No, come on, man. I wouldn't drag you like that.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Tone, Chugs, and Harmony, the weekly podcast where we discuss all things rhythm guitar. Through our guests, we try to learn unique experiences, insight, and their thoughts on what rhythm guitar means to them. Today we are joined by a very special guest. Not only does this man probably know my guitar playing better than me, but he is also what gave us the namesake of this podcast. We are joined today by Carlos Alvarez of Beholder, Shadow Dance, and Dirty Viking Audio. How you doing, brother?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited we're doing this. I don't think I'm capable of doing a new adventure not bringing Carlos along. So,
Seems to be the case.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure I own a few grays we see in that beard. Those are from me.
Oh, yeah. More than a few, man.
But I'm glad you're here, man. Because
yes, no, happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me on, as always.
Of course.
I appreciate you.
I mean, I talk about you a lot on my streams on anything with guitar related, especially to my playing. So I always look up to your words of wisdom and things you have to say. So I'm excited to give other people the opportunity to say it. But let's start with the present right now. You just recently posted that the Beholder album is a year old, or roughly around a year old now.
Yeah. April 25th marked the 1 year anniversary from when it released on Black Line Records. And yeah, man, it's been pretty wild how well it's been received, and the amount of like accolades it's gotten, and then like banging review after banging review. People, like, the end of the year, it was on like so many top albums list, best of 2025. A couple of people had it at the top place, like above like some like actual like real bands and stuff. So it was really, really surprising how well that album was received. I mean, we were very proud of what we put into it and how the songs turned out and stuff, but we didn't actually expect the kind of reaction it got, which was really, really awesome. So it's a little daunting, because got to try to write a follow-up to it, and hopefully it'll be as good.
Man, I always joke that like I'm the king at debuts, because after that I don't know what to do. Right? You make the killer debut, and then following it up is tough. But it's it's well deserved for you, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, you went all out. I mean, the badass artwork. I kind of got a little insight on the process, and you really fucking busted your ass. And like I said, well deserved, especially after the many years of helping guys like me get our stuff out there. I think Beholder was the universe. Like, here you go, Carlos.
I'll take it. I'll take that. Sure, man. Why not?
Yeah.
We have a saying at my job. It's like whenever something good could potentially happen, we're like, why not us?
Yeah.
Because everything shitty always happens. So like, why not? Why can't we have something good happen once in a while too?
Right. For those who don't know, because here we are chit-chatting like everyone should know, but tell us about Beholder, the concept of Beholder, and then I'd love to dig into sort of the process of the album itself.
Beholder is basically it's a love letter to classic epic doom metal bands, early Candlemass, the first handful of Solitude Eternus albums, early Trouble, Memento Mori, just bands that I've loved since I was a teenager. I mean, Solitude Eternus came out a few years later, but like Candlemass, I was big into back when I was a teenager and stuff. And I always wanted the opportunity to try my hand at like a classic style epic doom metal album, and also just having this lifelong love for Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, man, what could be more epic than putting those two together? And yeah, somehow it actually worked out, man. So I'm pretty stoked with how it all turned out. The writing for it was just, I wasn't trying to like hit any kind of agenda or something like that. I was writing for fun. I was just writing what I wanted to hear. Like if I could be 14-year-old me and pick up an album with awesome artwork and stuff, then this is the kind of music I would want to hear. I would have been stoked to hear. And speaking of which, that that hand in hand with all of that stuff, I wanted uh, every aspect of it to be like the thing I hate the most, and I know a lot of musicians can relate to this, is when you put out an album and somebody wants to check it out or you want to play it for somebody. And before you even hit play, you start making excuses. You're like, okay, here's the album. Now just keep this in mind, or just try to ignore that. And so the whole idea with this was I wanted zero excuses. I wanted top-notch production. I wanted the best artwork that I could get that made sense with the right artist. And just put the time and effort into making every facet of the release itself the best version of itself it could possibly be. And that way there's no excuses to hide behind. It's like either the songs suck or or they're great and you like it. You know what I mean? So that's why we got like we hired Sofia Dankova, the artist for like Powerwolf and Elven King, to do the artwork. She smashed it out of the park for us. Uh, we got our mutual friend Ronnie Bjornstrom to do the mix and master. He's worked with Sorcerer on I think all their albums, and Sorcerer is another big influence for Beholder. So why not go to the guy that makes them sound awesome? You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
And yeah, and I think a lot of the guys, like there's so many. The guys in the band, I think at first might have assumed I was going to mix it, but being so involved in every aspect of it, from the songwriting to the production to engineering things to coordinating things, it's just too much, and I don't think I would have been able to approach it from an unbiased standpoint. So that's why from the very beginning I'm like, no, that I'll do all the front end stuff. I'll handle the guitar recordings, as whatever, the backing vocals, all that kind of stuff. I'll coordinate everything, but I am not mixing this thing. No, no way. I need to be able to just send somebody the tracks and be like, all you now, take the pressure off me. And it's the smartest choice, I think, because Ronnie is amazing, and he works fast, and it's just it was a pleasure working with him. And he was kind of like the final step of an incredibly positive experience and process. He just kind of like bookended the whole thing and made it that last stage. He made that a pleasure, and the results, I think, speak for themselves. Even if you don't like doom metal, I think you could like this album because there's so much like classic heavy metal sprinkled throughout as well. Which, I mean, that's what classic doom is anyway. So
Right. Well, and it's interesting you say that because a thing I was going to follow up with you was like, I remember when you first told me about this and you mentioned doom metal. I don't know much doom, admittedly, so I always go to the slow, sort of sludgy stuff.
Mhm.
And then when I heard the Beholder songs, I was like, this is not what I expected. It's super riffy.
Yeah.
And, honestly, man, there was a lot to be desired for the kind of riffs I like, too. So that was exciting. Again, going in with the expectation I had,
Mhm.
thinking something like, what's that band with, like... Sleep. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, Sleep. That
Okay.
super doomy kind of band. That I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. And then when I heard Beholder, I was like, that is not this.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, like anything else, right? There's subgenres of subgenres, and doom metal is no exception. So you've got that sludgy stoner kind of doom. You've got that like that what do they call it? Like that drone kind of doom stuff or whatever, and you got like the death doom, and all of that has its value, and you know, to whomever really digs that kind of stuff. I am not into that really. I don't mind some death doom. I loved like old My Dying Bride and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but as far as like the stoner kind of stuff, it's just not my thing. That fuzzy kind of whatever. It's not my thing. This is more like I always said. Like classic doom metal is really just like slow, depressing power metal.
Right.
So that's kind of like, if you like if you like the sensibilities of, I shouldn't even say that either, because there's too much power metal out now that's just like all like it'll give you diabetes if you listen to it too long. It's too sparkly. I mean, like the old school shit, old school power metal, that kind of stuff. But like, concentrating more on really just like crushing riffs instead of like speed, and kind of avoiding as much as you can stuff that's happy sounding or whatever. But you don't want to get bogged down by trying to play slow for the sake of slow, and sad for the sake of sad. So there's a few moments on the album that kind of step off to the side a little bit from that, which I think is necessary because you add a little bit of brightness here and there in the right spots. It makes the dark stuff that much darker and heavier. So
Well, yeah, it's kind of like you said, right? Like you weren't writing with an agenda or rhyme or
mhm,
reason. So it's like that's where the mindset started, but you let this. It seems like you just let the songs go where they needed to go. That's
absolutely.
the best way to do it.
Yep.
Let's stay on the album, but let's switch gears to
Yep.
the guitars. This was another
Okay.
exciting thing to talk about with you, but now we can share the experience with other people. You mentioned you quad tracked with this one,
Yes.
and I think I'll let you tell the story, but I believe that was at Ronnie's recommendation. But how was the experience tracking the guitars for this one and your different approach maybe from other projects?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no stranger to quad tracking. Even like the last Shadow Dance album, that was a re-recording of the debut album from 2000 or whatever. I quad tracked all those rhythms as well, so it's not anything I'm not used to doing. It's just that when I first approached Ronnie, to see if he'd be interested in working on this, and then I said, okay, well, I'm going to start organizing everything, and I'll get to recording my guitar soon. Would you prefer dual tracked or quad? And he wrote back quad, and I was like, fuck, because I, I mean,
Let's
I
elaborate
could
on
do
that
it.
fuck for people who might not know
All right,
why. Why?
because it's annoying, man. It's fucking annoying. Look, I have a process that works for me. Oh, I would never, uh, I would never be so full of myself as to say this is how you do it. No, I have a method that works for me, which is I'll lay down my first rhythm guitar track, my primary one, and I will play the shit out of it. First of all, you got to rehearse everything before you start recording. There's no substitute for that. Being well prepared for your parts. I think too many people are a little too comfortable with just writing something in Guitar Pro, and then a day later trying to like throw the guitar version like for real down without having spent a month playing that song over and over and just committing it to muscle memory, so that by the time you actually do go to record it, you slam through it. You're playing confidently, you're playing clean, you're playing articulately. I think there's no substitute for that. So I rehearse everything for a while until I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then I will record my primary rhythm track. And I will do that to the best of my ability. I will punch in where I need to and just make everything as tight as I possibly can against the drum tracks or click tracks. Sometimes I will alternate between tracking two drum tracks, like a backing track of drums, so that I can actually kind of feel a groove. But sometimes you do it like 5 6 times, you're like, why am I not nailing this? And you just go right to a click track and turn the drums off, and you nail it, and you're like, why? That doesn't even make sense. But so I always have the click track on hand to do that as well. And then once I'm done with that primary track for a song, I will then edit the shit out of that track. Okay, I will make it as tight as possible, like as nuts to butts tight as possible against that drum, against that click, whatever, without sacrificing feel if there's room for that. We could get into that later. Some people they put way too much weight on that idea, but I will get just essentially the idealized rhythm guitar track against that drum track, and then I will proceed to do the next three, but I will play along the drums only, and I will ignore whatever I did on that first track. And I will just perform. I won't edit the other three. I will just perform. I will punch in. I will retake until it sounds good, and I will comp takes. Absolutely. People try to act like they don't do that. Yes, they do. Or they should be doing it because they're not as good as they think they are. So I don't pretend to be, some kind of savant or whatever. I'm good. I'm solid. My rhythm technique is well defined and honed. So I'm pretty confident in my abilities, but I have to comp takes, I have to retake, I have to punch in. So I will do that for the other three tracks on a song without listening to that first one because uh, a mistake that a lot of people do make, and I made it in the beginning as well, is editing things too tight. If you get in the habit of trying to line up all your peaks and your DIs and stuff like that, especially across three, four rhythm tracks, you actually end up with a more narrow overall guitar sound than wider because you want a little bit of smear between those hits from track to track because that's what actually creates that wall of sound, that wall of guitars. So you don't want them to be perfect. So I ignore that first perfect one and I just track as best I can because I know it's there already. So anything else I do, if it sounds really tight, I know that first one is locked in. So that's basically my process for quad tracking. It works for me, may not work for everybody else or whatever, but so far it's gotten me through everything from slow tempo, mid tempo doom stuff to a couple of things on the Shadow Dance album are still some of the fastest things I've ever played. So
Nice.
yeah,
Now,
there you go.
do you think um it's something where it could either be so the difference of just tracking one on each side or quad
Mhm.
tracking? Do you think if someone has the capability to quad track, they should always quad track, or is it really preference or circumstantial to the album you're trying to make?
I would say maybe like circumstantial to the album you're trying to make.
Hmm.
um, I think if you're doing like a really like a very thrashy, beaty kind of thing, um, or really really super technical. I don't know necessarily that you need to have everything quad tracked. I would think dual tracking would probably do the job just fine for that style. You may quad track certain parts, like when big chords come in, you might want to do that, or like when you go into like a bridge section, some strum thing or something, whatever. You might want to throw in an extra set of rhythm tracks there just to kind of, you know, you could pan them different or whatever in the mix, and it adds some excitement and stuff like that to the song. But as a whole, I don't think there's any specific rule. I don't think if you're playing this style of music, you should never quad track or you should always quad track. I think it's really dependent on the album, on the style, on the song, what the song calls for. It's just that for me, um, the majority. I mean, first of all, for the Beholder stuff, it's all low tempo with a couple little pickups, a couple of mid-tempo sort of vibes and stuff. I don't think anything goes above like 125 BPM or something like that, maybe 130. So, and also because there's not a lot of fluff in the album. From the very beginning, my intention was to do something old school in terms of like there's no keyboards on the album anywhere. Um, and most, like I would say 90% of the album is stuff that can easily be reproduced live with two guitars. So there's not a whole shit ton of like, overdubs and crazy things in the background and all that kind of stuff. So
You're not
it
tracking some Blind Guardian stuff here.
exactly, and which again, perfect for that style.
Right.
But for this was meant to be to have a vibe that sits alongside like those older albums, and so because there wasn't as much space being taken up by other things, other elements, uh, it allowed for all the rhythms to be quad track through every song, and not cause any kind of issue. Like it was more about here's the guitar sound, and now let's fit everything around it, kind of thing. That was sort of the idea. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man. All right, let's journey back in time now. Let's talk
Okay.
about sort of the early days of your guitar playing,
Okay.
and then we'll catch back up here to the present. But what were some early struggles for you? Like, and I'm not talking about like starting the guitar, right? We all have the origin story where we started with the, place your finger on the fret and press the string kind of stuff. But when you
Yep.
really kind of started to get to that next point of playing these heavy styles, these heavy metal rhythms, if you will.
Mhm.
What were some early struggles for you to overcome to really lock in with yourself or start to understand more of, oh, this is what I need to be doing if I want to achieve this tight playing?
Well, two things come to mind actually. When I first started, um, I probably got about a year into my playing where I was having a lot of difficulties getting like articulating things when I would try to play faster or move between strings. And it, it turned out it was because of the way I was holding my pick. Um, I was actually, we used to call it like when you would skateboard, if you use like a different leg than everybody else, we called it goofy foot. Um, and it was almost like I was holding the pick like goofy foot. So instead of like that, hold on, let me see. You see this? Okay. So
Mm.
like got a pick. So like, instead of having like that where you're holding down like at an angle like that, I was doing like the Marty Friedman or the Chuck Schuldiner, and I was holding it like bent upwards.
Mm.
So I was like actually, I was like scraping the strings like this instead of doing like that. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, so it just turned out I was holding the pick almost not upside down, but just I was angling it upwards the way if you watch Marty Friedman, he does it, and God bless him, the guy is a god, but
I, al- I,
it was
sorry. I always
no
reference
good.
I always reference him when talking about like trying to remind people like, you know, when to a student when I'm showing them how to do something, it's like, look, this is what I found works for me. But then I'll
Mhm,
I'll, I'll reference Marty Freeman, or like James Hetfield with the three finger thing. I'm like,
mhm.
who am I to tell those guys they're wrong? Even though to
Right,
me that looks just crazy.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I just
and
wanted to
Chuck
agree.
Schuldiner, Chuck
Yeah.
Schuldiner was another one. He held it too. Like he held it weird like that, like the Marty Friedman kind of posture on his right hand. But anyway, I was struggling with clarity and articulation and just being able to jump from like different patterns and stuff like that. And it turned out that once I started to force myself to hold the pick the opposite way, much like James Hetfield, um, it wasn't like I lost a whole year. It was like it took me about a month to reprogram my hand and my brain to never even consider holding the pick the way I originally was again. And so once I did that, it it opened up a whole bunch of stuff for me because things that I had been struggling with all of a sudden were so much easier. And I realized it was just that the way I held the pick. Now, does that mean that that's the correct thing for everybody? No. Again, I'm not the kind of person to say, this is how you do things. If you're not doing it like this, you're wrong and you suck. No. If it works for you, obviously, Marty Freeman, then fucking hold
Yeah.
the pick. I don't give a shit how you do it, you know? I've seen people play, they're not even left handed, but they play left handed guitars upside down, like with the low E at the bottom and shit like that, just for, I don't know, just because they want to steal your woman or something. So, whatever works for you is what works for you. But that was a big thing for me. That really opened up a whole like, I shouldn't say it opened anything up. It removed a stumbling block. It removed the stumbling block for me.
Right.
So that was definitely one thing. And then struggles. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I never really struggled with too much else, I guess. It, it, I've always just kind of kept a mindset that I just want to be able to play what I hear in my head.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe that's an insult to myself that I'm not hearing anything in my head that's so like so absolutely complex that I need to struggle to get good at it or something. I don't know.
Right.
Um, but I think that pick thing was a big roadblock for me. Once I got past that, it just
Nice.
if I really wanted to learn how to play something, I've been able to play it.
Okay.
So yeah.
And was there anything else you can think of that like came maybe not a roadblock, but little obstacle that you had to get through? So, for example, a lot of people when it comes to this kind of playing seem to get stuck with feeling super tense in the arm, right?
Yeah.
Or not actually locking in the wrist and things like that. Was that ever an issue for you, or did you kind of just it just kind of worked for you? You just kind of did it.
That's just all technique. And I think I think once you play something enough times, you instinctively understand if the way you're playing it feels good or not. And if you're playing something and at the end of it you're in pain, that you should be taking some type of notes from that you're doing something wrong. Because obviously if other people can do it and they're not in pain, then they must be doing something different that could be of benefit to you. So for myself, the only thing that the only thing I learned from any of that kind of stuff was proper stretching. Um, because I think there were a lot of times, especially when I was playing like just balls out real fast shit all the time. I would just jump in and start playing, and then maybe after like 10 minutes or something, I like that your tendon in your elbow, it would start to get really aggravated, and I was like, I'm gonna hurt myself. So I would take 5 minutes, and I still do it before gigs, before I practice. I don't even do shit until I stretch my fingers out. I stretch my wrists out, and by extension my forearms, and I'll do that for just like a couple minutes. Not even. And it makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
Uh, I don't ever lock up in my arm anymore or anything like that, and it just yeah, if you're feeling pain, you're doing something wrong, so address it. Pay attention to it and address it and fix it. And you'll be happier for it.
Yep. Yeah, and you brought up a few points that Rob, my last guest, brought up, and I like to point that out to people listening as just reminders of like, here's now two people saying the same thing. He mentioned the importance of stretching, and then also like we talked about sort of techniques and how there's not a certain way, but trust your body.
Yeah,
If it feels wrong, it's probably wrong, but if it feels right and it sounds good, and someone tells you it's wrong, don't listen.
don't listen to them. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
because
like there's a lot. There's a lot of things like especially when you're playing real fast. Obviously you're supposed to be using your wrist and not really your elbow. Okay. So, but that's just technique. And if anybody is solidly 100% using their elbow to play really fast stuff, they are doing something wrong because they are going to start to feel pain after a while. You're supposed to be just using your wrist as a pendulum.
right.
And but there are times where it makes perfect sense for a section or whatever where you may want to just lay into it with your elbow to get like a little extra depth of feel when you're, especially if you're like locking into a double bass groove or something like that. But you shouldn't be doing it all the time. You have to know how to like float back and forth. It's kind of like for technique things and stuff. Everybody's got their own little quirks and shit. I absolutely detest fixed bridges. I prefer floating bridges. But I don't even use a trim bar or anything like that. I just prefer floating bridges because when I play, and it's just something I noticed that I had over years just became a thing. I will, when I'm playing really fast, I'll be pushing back with my palm on the bridge, and it's not enough to put anything out of tune, but I'm actually creating just a touch more tension on the
Okay.
strings. And so that allows me to pick cleaner and faster. And I anchor that by my pinky always hooks around the high E string. So it like serves two purposes. It anchors my hand and it also deadens any of the higher strings when I'm riffing. So I'll do that, and then when I go into something heavy or whatever, I lay off that back pressure and just what I mean. Then I can just normal palm mute and stuff. But when I play fast, I notice that it's something I didn't even realize I was doing. It was just kind of like instinctual. I was pushing back just a tiny bit just to get a little extra tension on the strings to make it easier, and I can play it pretty much whatever speed with and still get like a lot of note clarity.
I remember when I switched to Evertunes, I struggled for a while to.
Mhm.
I noticed I
I've
didn't.
still never had a guitar with one of those.
Yeah, it's like you lose. It's just like a flatter surface, so it's like you lose that
Mhm.
place where your palm rests, and it fucked me up for a while. Where I was like, I almost
Yeah.
like literally was like, I don't know if I can play these things, but I think now I've gotten used to it. But I understand the
Mhm.
difference in bridges, like, and all those little things can make a difference. Where like all
Yep.
that. And you said the word already earlier, but the muscle memory, you get used to placing it here, or you twist a little bit this way, which actually made me think of another question, right? So you mentioned the bridges, things like that, and then so strings, like what gauge strings and picks did you end up finding that you use now, which I assume you've probably used for a while, but have really worked for you? And follow up question:
Mhm.
When do you change the gauge of your strings depending on what you're recording? So, do you know what I mean by that question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I know you get that, but sometimes I tend to ask long questions with like, let me answer one part first, bro. I get, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I've been pretty much, I went through a lot of different picks when I was younger, and I can't say when I settled on these, but Dunlop Tordex yellow ones, I've been using those probably since the late '90s. Um, Never looked back. I don't need anything else. That's it. That's my pick for the rest of my life. As far as strings, I've gone through several different brands that I was in love with at the time. But now, what am I using? Uh, yeah, 11s, Dunlop heavy cores. That's my string of choice. 1150. And no, I don't use different gauge strings for different stuff. So all the uh, all the Shadow Dance stuff, I used those strings, and all the Beholder stuff, I used those strings. And when I did all the guitar stuff for the last Power Theory album, I used those strings. So yeah, no, I don't need to go to like, you know, fucking like piano wires or something like that just because I'm going to be playing in C or whatever. Just set the guitar up better. That's all.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Because I've been curious, and this is more of like a off-topic thing. I guess I'm kind of
Mhm.
about to ask Carlos a question, but it could be good for you guys as well. Um, one thing I've noticed, I like to use heavier ones, so I do the hybrid 1156 because I like the a little heavier for the top. Um,
Mhm.
but then sometimes I'll grab someone else's guitar who is a lighter gauge string, and I'll try to do like a little lead lick, and I'm like, oh, I'm so much better at it on these lower strings.
Yeah.
So a part of me is considered like, oh, maybe when I'm tracking my own shit, I should consider a smaller gauge string for the lead parts. I can hit the vibratos better and things like that. So I don't. That's kind of what I was curious about is depending on what you're tracking, but you don't even worry about it. Just same
I
gauge.
don't worry. I use a different guitar.
All right.
I'll use it like for my rhythms. I've got my two primary Jacksons with the Seymour Duncan pickups. It's the SH10 full shreds.
Mm-hmm.
I have two different Jackson Kellys, so I'll use one for either side. I know they're the same guitar, same brand, and it's the same pickup, but they're two different guitars. So you're getting just the slightest difference in natural EQ separation from one side to the other. So I do that for my rhythms, and then I have a third Jackson Kelly, same strings, same pickups, but it's a different style, uh, a different make. I mean, and I'll use that for like my cleans and melody leads, and if I have solos, because I mean I can play solos. I'm not like I'm not some maestro, shred master or anything like that, but and it doesn't come naturally or easy to me because it's not something I ever focused on. But I was the primary lead guitarist in Power Theory for, the 6, 7 years or whatever I was in that band. I've done plenty of solos on my own stuff. Beholder's probably the only thing so far that I haven't done any solos on with this album, because it was just nice to actually just take a break from any of that kind of stuff and say, let me just concentrate on writing songs. And Matt is just on such a different level of guitar playing. I'm like, he can handle all the solos. I don't need to even try to. I don't have that much of an ego, so I let him handle that stuff. But for my own stuff, yeah, I'll use the same gauge strings. I just use a different guitar and different amp sound. I think that's more important than anything, is to get the right amp sound. Um, so for like leads and melody guitar lines and stuff like that, I'll actually use less gain, um, but a little bit more mids to get kind of like almost like a little bit of a chimey bell kind of attack, a little bit more percussive, and a different amp sound, and that just naturally helps it sit on its own against all these rhythm guitars that have their own sound as well. So that to me is more important than a gauge of strings or something like that.
Okay, nice. Um, and then tell us some of your early influences. Some guys that really shaped you in the playing that you like to do now.
Okay. I mean, yeah, first and foremost, I mean, keep in mind I'm old. So, I was there when a lot of these classic albums were actually coming out. So, I can't deny Papa Het is in a top spot for sure. And anybody and everybody when I was a teenager, when all of us were kind of, discovering instruments and stuff like that, if any of us gravitated towards a guitar, it's because we wanted to be as cool as Papa Het. So that's just, there's no arguing that.
Dude had the charisma for
Hugely.
sure. Yep.
Oh God, the man was a god. The man was a god. Okay, so he still is. But he's also hands down the greatest rhythm guitar player out there. And that's just, I know there's people that can probably do stuff that, that's outside of his technical ability or whatever, but it has nothing to do with that. It's not showboating. It's like this guy is just, he commands on that guitar every single note. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot of, ironically, the only thing I didn't learn immediately from him was how to hold the fucking pick. But everything else, I would say, he was hugely influential. And then, which again, it's funny because he's not even the reason why I ever decided to play guitar. I got my first guitar because I was like, I heard the song Twilight of the Gods from Halloween, and I was like, holy shit, I want to be able to do that. So I would say Kai Hansen, even though I don't really write in his style or whatever, but Kai Hansen is probably my biggest overall influence, because that's actually the guy that got me to deliver newspapers in the middle of winter and stuff to save up to get my first guitar.
Nice.
Kai
doesn't
Kai
get
Hansen,
enough shout out. Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Godfather of power metal and all that kind of shit for sure. But unless you're actually like a strict power metal guy, it seems I don't hear a lot of non-power metal-ish people ever cite him as an influence, and I think that's a shame. But hey, whatever. So yeah, Kai Hansen, James Hetfield, Scott Ian is another absolute beast of a rhythm guitar player.
He's another one. I know we've talked about it, but he's another guy I feel
Mhm.
doesn't get the credit he should get.
I think he definitely doesn't. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is just an absolute 3.5 foot tall beast of a player. Yeah. He's a monster, dude.
Yeah.
And I would say then, like, after that was kind of like the primary, like the first wave of influences. And then, as I started to kind of develop a little bit of a playing ability, and I wanted to like stretch a little and test myself, I would say probably the next most influential one was Greg Fulton. from Cyclone Temple. He was in a band before that called Snow White from Chicago area. That dude is just, oof, man, what a player! What an absolute monster of a rhythm player. And and I learned something important from his playing, which I didn't see the other guys doing a lot of, which is he would actually play chords with vibrato, which I was like the first time I actually realized what he was doing, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't see anybody else really doing that. He's like shaking his power chords and stuff, and I'm like, that's so cool. So I adopted a little bit of that into my own playing, and
I've seen people
yeah,
do that now. Maybe it wasn't as common then, but it always sounds
it
really
wasn't.
cool. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'd say Greg Fulton was probably the first one I heard
nice.
and seen doing that, and then yeah, I guess like there really wasn't too much else after that. I think like uh, I nicked a few a few techniques from like Andy Sneap back when he was in Sabbath,
Okay.
and a few things obviously from John Schaefer back when like Night of the Storm Rider was pretty that was some hot soup back then. So yeah, I definitely nicked a
I
few
always
things
try to
from
remember
him.
that shit came out in '92, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, man,
Yeah.
I was there.
I was there.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, but I mean, I was like, I was at the fucking record store going, what the hell is this? This looks awesome. So I bought it, and I was like, it is awesome.
Yep. So this brought up a question I wasn't going to ask, but
Okay.
a lot of people cite, especially the earlier Iced Earth stuff, as just being like this top level of playing, especially with the gallops and things. Did you ever find Iced Earth stuff any harder than the rest, or is it just sort of faster? You know?
It's again, it all comes down to technique. I think John Schaefer had amazing technique. He could riff his ass off. There's no disputing that. But I think so. Uh, speed is nothing really. Um, it it's really about your it's about technique, a combination of good technique and endurance. Okay. If you have good technique and endurance, you can play anything at any speed. So the stuff that was really kind of making people go like, holy shit, with John Schaefer, he was like, like that kind of stuff. That's not hard. And I was able to do that stuff back then as well. Um, but can you do it for 6.5 minutes straight, cleanly? That's where he excelled, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because the patterns he was playing are not difficult. They're not anything uh, overly special
Yeah, they're
or
pretty
unique.
standard gallop patterns.
Yeah, but he would trick them up a little bit, which was cool. And I think really the thing that made them stand out to me was the fact that he was doing this very precise, thrashy style of rhythm playing over very power metalish sound, which was unusual at the time because we didn't really have a whole shit ton of power metal bands back then. So
Right.
there was Halloween and Riot and stuff like that, and they weren't doing that kind of stuff, and Blind Guardian wasn't doing stuff like that at that time either. So they were more kind of straightforward, just like tremolo picking
Tremolo,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Leads and
Yeah.
tremolo picking
So
was
yeah,
Blind Guardian.
yeah. So again, what there wasn't really anything mind blowing. It was just really cool to hear, and
So
it's not difficult to play though.
yeah. So here's a question I've never really asked anybody because we always hear about have good technique, right?
Mhm.
Um, but what can people do? Because say someone's working really hard, like great, okay, cool, I got the technique. What can players do to work on their endurance? I feel like that's something I don't hear a lot talked about. Do you just play? Just I mean that's all I kind of did
I
in
mean,
the younger years, but
yeah, you gotta establish habits. Like what's the goal? If your goal is to be able to do something like that for a high rate of speed and cleanly for 6 minutes, you're not really you're gonna frustrate yourself if you try to just play until you get there. you're going to get discouraged, I think, and rightfully so, because that's boring. And like, you know what I mean? Like you're just constantly struggling and it's like, no, you have to build a solid foundation. And the only way to do that is to take that rhythm that you hear. And if it's like if you're trying to do a John Schaefer thing for 6 minutes and go, dun, 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 take that rhythm, break it down, to
Is it?
get yourself a metronome or a drum machine, whatever, like Easy Drummer or something, set up a loop like that and just play, pick a tempo and just say for 5 minutes. Don't do it over long because you'll get bored and that's not good. Go for like 5 minutes every day. And then after a few days, if you get to the end of that 5 minutes, you're like, that was nothing, then do it for 6 minutes or raise the BPM like 2 BPMs and do that. And just it's methodical but you keep it short. You do it in just like daily bursts of controlled amounts of time and you keep doing that every day. And in 2 weeks, you will make more progress than if you just try to wail away at it for 2 weeks. You will be so much further ahead. And with that solid foundation in place now, as opposed to just fucking swinging for it,
And I think that's the part you're always trying to hit home when you tell someone to take it slower, right? Slow down, break it apart.
Yep.
Because in the moment, that seems like I'm gonna be fucking here forever. But like you just said, like
Yep.
the difference you'll have 2 weeks later will be so worth it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You have to set up a solid foundation, and the only way to do that is to do things slow. You start out slow. Speed comes with, again, technique and endurance. And before you know it, you're gonna those Forrest Gump leg braces are gonna fly off, and you're gone, man. That's it. No one will be able to catch you.
Dude, I need a Pee Wee's Funhouse button when they say like the word of the day. And every time someone says slow on the podcast, I'm gonna press it.
I got this one. I got the.
That was easy.
That's
There
all
we
I
go.
got.
Nice. Okay. So we talked a lot about guitar in the studio. We went over a lot of that. Some of your influences, your playing, your upcoming, or your upbringing with guitar. I'm a little curious to hear about you playing live and maybe your different approaches. One thing in particular, we talk about quad tracking, right? Get the big studio sound. How do we translate that over to a live environment? Is it really just as simple as crank up the fucking volume on the amp, or do you sort of approach either gear or technique a little different live?
No, live is a completely different thing than recording, studio, whatever. It's an entirely different animal. They're not even related. So it never crosses my mind when I have to play a gig, how am I going to reproduce that sound live? It doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. So the only thing I do is I play live with the same sound that I use for the album. And then at that point, I'm at the mercy of the sound guy, like everybody is. So be nice to your sound guys and tip them. So yeah, that's it, man. There's nothing else you can really do. I mean, you don't want to turn up louder because then you're going to make an enemy of the sound guy. Again, be nice to your sound guy. For myself, I use my Kemper Live, and I have it's not the powered one, but I have a power amp for it. So what I'll do is, if the option is there, I'll run direct to front of house, direct out from the Kemper, and they're getting my profile sound, so they're in complete control. But I have independent control from my power amp. I can run that if there's a 412 on the stage or something like that. I can run that into that cabinet and have my own stage volume. So if I'm a couple songs deep and I feel like I want a little more, I want to feel something hit me in the back a little bit, I can go turn up on stage, and it does not affect anything going to front of house. So the sound guys are always happy, You know, you're saying. So that works for me. You know what I mean? And I have that option. They never have to worry about it. They don't have the mic on the cabinet, so it doesn't fuck them up or anything. So yeah, that's all I do, man. I don't worry about how can I get this sound of quad tracked guitars from the album live. I don't give a shit. It's not going to matter, you know.
Nice.
Sound guy's going to make you sound good or not. So that's
Right.
it.
Cool, man.
In the room.
Yeah, that's true. Awesome. All right, so a couple more things. I want to get some advice questions from you, maybe for those.
Okay.
I feel like naturally through the conversation of us talking, you've answered some of these already, but I'm still going to ask them. And if there's anything you want to add on, go ahead. Or if not, you can just revert back to what you already answered. But you've been doing this a long time. You've been a guitar player, a songwriter, an engineer, a producer. You've fucking done it all. You've had to deal with guys like me for 10 years. So you've got some knowledge, and I want to take some of it for our listeners here. Okay. What is something just as a player or an engineer that you see a lot of rhythm guitarists do wrong that you wish they wouldn't?
Okay, so again, as a player, I'm not going to really comment on that, on what I see people do wrong, because I'm doing shit wrong too. So everybody's on their own trip with that kind of thing. Figure it out, that's all. As far as recording, what do I see guitarists doing wrong with recording? Not rehearsing their stuff for a good amount of time before they then record it, their final takes. That is probably the biggest mistake I see, especially now, because like I said earlier, it's all too common for people to just write their shit in Guitar Pro without even really picking up a guitar or a bass or whatever. And then they go, okay, the song's done. I'm going to record it now. And then they lay down, multiple tracks of slop. And I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm just saying this is something I've dealt with.
He doesn't have
a lot
to,
of
guys.
times.
He doesn't have to.
No, come on. I wouldn't drag you like that. Listen. Hey, look. Let me be clear about something, okay?
Is my face red, everybody? Yeah. No.
If Beholder had to go play live at a big festival or something, and I fell off my roof and fucked myself up and couldn't play, you'd be like my top pick to replace me to do it, because I would trust you to play.
Oh, let's
the
push
shit
Carlos
that I
off the
wrote.
roof, everybody. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So I can play this one Beholder show.
You.
No, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you would be about one of the only people I would trust to do that and to do it right. So no, I'm not dragging you. I'm not pointing a finger at you, but it is something I see a lot of guitarists do. They don't rehearse their own material before they decide they're going to record it and send it to somebody. So for myself, I have never written a single thing. Again, this is I'm speaking for myself. I'm not saying don't do this. You should do this. You should not do that. I'm not doing that. Do whatever works for you. I have never written a single fucking thing in Guitar Pro. Okay. It annoys me. Just looking at it annoys me. I understand it. I understand. I have a working understanding of theory. I'm not an encyclopedia by any means. I can pick out all the notes on a guitar. Like if you point to a fret on a guitar somewhere, I can tell you what note it is. But there might be like a 1 or 2 second buffer before I spit the note out. So I'm not like Rain Man with this shit. But just looking at Guitar Pro and it's like it seems so artificial to me. So when I write, I have a session open in Pro Tools. If I have a basic idea of what I think the drum should be doing for some riff that I'm trying to work out or something, I'll just lay a simple drum pattern in Easy Drummer and loop it, and I'll play along to that. And I'll build my song from there. And once I have a song built in a session, before I ever entertain the idea of doing some kind of final recording for the rhythms or the leads or whatever, I will play the shit out of that song. I will open it up every single day and I will play it twice, usually twice through, and I will just keep doing that until I I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'll keep doing that until I can't make mistakes. And so when I go to actually record something, uh, then when I do make a mistake, it's gonna be because the pick shifted in my hand in a way I wasn't expecting, or because my finger got caught on the string and I frumped a note, or I get the red light fever, and I know it's a big power slide down an E and I go to the fucking F for whatever reason, even though I've done it for 2 months straight on the E, but I go to the F, and everybody does that. But I'm going to get done my recordings quicker with better end results way faster than somebody who just jumps from guitar, unless there's some kind of, like, again, some kind of savant or whatever. But for the most part, I think that's the biggest thing people should avoid, is just jumping from one thing where they write to going, okay, now I can record this. No, you can't. Most likely you can't. Practice the song, practice the shit out of it, and then record it. And if you don't believe me, try doing it both ways. Once, just try doing it both ways and see at the end of it. And when you find out that I'm right, you don't have to tell anybody. Just keep doing it the correct way from now on. And there you go. And it'll make people, like, my life easier. Even if you never send me a guitar track, you being the royal you, even if you never send me a guitar track to work on, you've still made my life easier somehow. Okay? Because I know there's some other asshole like me that's, going like this, listening to these raw tracks, okay? And if they don't have to deal with that, then I feel all the better for it. So, yeah, that's a big mistake. There you go.
Nice. And this is something I think you might have touched on, but maybe, again, you'll have more insight. What is something a beginner for this style of playing, and when I say style, everybody, again, we're focusing on, like, rhythm, right? The down picks, the really tight, intense playing. What is something they should really focus on in the beginning?
Wow. Okay. I would say clarity and articulation. When you're playing, if you're just doing something very basic and simple, and you're going like jun 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 jun, does it sound scratchy, or does it sound solid and percussive? Because you want it to be solid and percussive. If it sounds a little shun 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 like that, maybe you're not holding the pick right. Or maybe try adjusting how you're holding the pick or your hand position or something like that, and see if you can change that shun 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 to a shun 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 shun. Get that percussive kind of, that bloom from the note. And if you can do that, then that's the primary thing you need to fix, because now at least you know where your hand might need to be to replicate that sound when you want. Okay. And then apply it to everything. When you start cross picking to pick up, start going like chugga 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 chugga. See if you can maintain that percussive clarity instead of it turning into like that. Because when you start double tracking, quad tracking, whatever, and you're going, it's going to sound like shit. Okay, so you want that, like, you want that percussive kind of that attack. And the only way to do that is start slow and just break it apart and listen to what the sound is that you're creating when you're chugging away, down picking and stuff like that, or alternate picking, whatever. Because you want to maintain that percussive sound when you're alternate picking as well, like when you're tremolo picking, when you're playing fit, whatever. You want to do that as well. So I would say that's definitely something to listen for. Is like the try to get any shit in the sound that you instinctually know is probably not supposed to be there. Try to get that out of your playing, and do it. The sooner you do it, the better. Because, again, foundations. Once you build that foundation, you're always going to be listening when you play something, if you're playing it with the shit. Okay? And if and as soon as you hear that you might be, you can on the fly adjust how you're holding a pick or your hand position or whatever, and correct yourself. So you don't have to watch a bunch of dudes in the front row with their arms crossed make squinty faces at you and shit.
Oh, well, they're going to anyways, but maybe there'll be less of them.
I mean, come on.
No, they'll be in the back. They'll be in the back. They don't sit in
Mhm.
the front row.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned.
Very cool. Carlos, I appreciate your time so much, brother, and thank you so much for being here, sharing your insight and everything. But before you go, I always have a few rapid fire questions I like to ask the guest. So these ones are a little more fun. Don't think too hard on them.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're just going to run down them real quick, and then we'll do some shout-outs and get out of here. So, the thing you're most proud of all your work?
What do you mean, like album, song? What do you mean?
Whatever it is. A riff, a song, an album?
I mean, the thing I'm most proud of would probably be the first Shadow Dance album, but that's because that was my first, the first thing that I ever did that was on that actual level, that scale, where, here's an actual album I created of, my music.
Right.
I think so. That's probably the most proud. What was I super thrilled with the end result of it? Not I am now, but back then I wasn't. But I was still incredibly proud of it. It was still probably my proudest moment. Yeah.
Nice, awesome, cool. Yeah, that works for me, man. Most influential album that you would consider for you?
I mean, I guess
there could be more than one.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of influential albums, but I guess just going off of the guitarist that also inspired me, I would say, like the Keeper of Seven Keys Part 1 and Part 2. I would say Dreamweaver from Sabbath. Master of Puppets for sure. Among the Living from Anthrax. And yeah, I mean, again, I've already kind of touched on the guitar, so I guess like I Hate Therefore I Am from Cyclone Temple, and uh, uh, I wouldn't really say Night of the Storm Rider was really a top influential album or something. You know what I did love that actually has no bearing on my playing whatsoever? The first Saigon Kick album.
Okay.
That one like that had me rethinking shit musically and stuff.
Nice.
They're not what you think. Like some people might immediately just lump them into some kind of weird hair metal band, but they are not. They're like progressive. They're really awesome.
Awesome.
So yeah, the first Saigon Kick, and yeah, and I think probably the last one, I would say Purple Rain from Prince. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
we were just talking about Purple Rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it was a really I don't know if you ever listened to the last Power Theory album, but it was a big deal for me for the one song I was actually able in my solo was actually able to sneak in a little tribute to Purple Rain in the middle of the solo there. It's subtle, but it's there.
Which song?
And if you listen for it, you'll be like, it's a song called Albion.
Okay.
On the last Power Theory album, which was called Force of Will. But the other guitarist does the very first solo that comes in, like 10 seconds or whatever, is him, and then I jump in, and you can hear the difference in guitar sound, so you'll know immediately when I jump in, and it goes through the heavy part, but then the whole song comes down into a quiet part, but I still continue to solo, and in that quiet section, I managed to sneak in just a little tribute to Prince and Purple Rain in that spot. So I'll send you the link after we're done with this. If you want to check it out.
Definitely. And everyone listening, go check it out. All right.
Sure.
I feel like we already named two of these guys that you would say, but most underrated guitarist in your opinion?
Oh, Scott Ian is definitely one of them for sure. And when I say underrated, I mean, of course, he's in, Anthrax is one of the big four. So it's like, how is he underrated? But I think underrated in terms of people's appreciation for his rhythm technique and abilities. I think that's what he's underrated for.
Right.
As far as other guitarists that are underrated, I don't know because I would. Yeah, that's a tough one, man.
Carlos Alvarez is my vote, everybody.
Oh, come on, knock it off. No, I would say again maybe I think Greg Fulton is underrated because and not just for rhythm because I actually had the pleasure of playing a show opening up for his other band that he had years later out in Chicago area and they were called how were they called Rebels Without Applause and I didn't even realize who they were or who their guitarist was. So it was like I was like fucking starstruck when I saw it was him, and it turned out to be like the fucking nicest, most humble dude too. He was great, but man, holy shit, he took everybody to fucking school that night, dude.
Nice.
It was a master class of watching him play because it was so his playing was it was an afterthought. This guy could have been thinking about food or cartoons or whatever because it was just his playing was so naturally an extension of himself. It was awesome, man. So I would say Greg Fulton. Just overall, I
Okay.
think more people should know his stuff.
And what's his main band? In case
Well,
someone
I don't
doesn't
know
know
what his
him.
main band is now.
Oh, okay.
The last thing I knew of was that Rebels Without Applause, but
Oh,
and
okay.
and there was some similarities with it wasn't as thrashy as Cyclone Temple. Cyclone Temple only did a couple albums, but the first one's the only one I really care about because the singer was amazing. But that album, I hate, therefore I am, and then like the Snow White when they were called Snow White, uh, those albums are thrash classics too. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, you're going to a show. You're going on tour. Hypothetically, doesn't matter. What are 3 items you must have in your guitar bag?
3 items. Hmm, that's a tough one, dude. I guess a spare cord. Um, I don't use active, so I don't need a battery. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Power supply, and I guess I don't know a DI box. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I dude, I obsess over the things I need to bring to a gig. So
Right.
uh, and it's funny because earplugs. How about earplugs? Yeah,
Yeah.
there
So
you
there
go.
you go.
Earplugs.
Earplugs.
There you go.
That's a
Earplugs,
great one.
without a doubt.
Yep.
Yep, earplugs.
All right. Last question. If given a
Ooh,
chance, who is an artist you would love to work with?
ooh, man. Um, I think for myself, most of that tends to be singers. So I would, I mean, personally, it would be really fucking cool, considering what Beholder does. If I could ever somehow manage to collaborate or have some kind of guest performance from like Messiah Margolin from Candlemass, the original, well, not the original, but the from the classic lineup of Candlemass,
Right.
uh, that would be amazing. I guess Rob Lowe from Solitude Eternus would be pretty amazing too. I don't really think of too many others because I mean I've kind of actually collaborated with a lot of people that are you know people I looked up to and stuff. I mean I've
Nice.
been on a couple albums or like Hansi and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
you know,
Very cool.
yeah. I guess Kai Hansen that would be awesome. Whether some if he threw down some weird ass screechy vocals or a guitar solo or something that would be pretty amazing.
Be
That
kind of
would be
cool
cool.
hearing his unique voice on a Beholder song. Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that sound like him. I
Yep.
think the only person I can think of that reminds me of like this is what Kai Hansen would have sounded like if Halloween kind of stayed in the speed metal thing is like the dude from Power Mad. I think he has about the closest kind of like that weird, unique kind of timbre to his voice too.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, Carlos, once again, thank you so much, man. I always enjoy chatting with you. I hope people got some good insight out of this one. But before we get you out of here, please let people know what you got going on that you can speak of, where to find your bands, where to find you.
Well, first of all, thank you very, very much. I appreciate the hell out of you, brother. I love you, and this is always I always look forward to doing these things with you. So thank you for having me on and for letting me ramble about, nonsense and stuff. So, yeah, so, I'm appreciative of that, man. And as far as what we got going on, at the moment, what do we got going on? We're working towards, because all of us in Beholder are different parts of the country, as you know. So anything that we try to do usually involves plane tickets and a lot of planning. So we're trying to make some shit happen at the end of next month, to get some rehearsals underway. For what? Who knows? Something, maybe. So find out another time. But some rehearsals, some fresh band picks, a word I absolutely fucking despise, content. Yeah,
Like
just shit
this
like that.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is content with a purpose. I'm talking about short
For sure.
form, fucking, flashy, ooh, a nickel, kind of shit. But yeah, so we're doing that, and we're just in the process of starting to demo some new songs for the next Beholder album. So if anybody is looking to check out some really, our motto is magic, mayhem, and riffs heavier than a storm giant's ass. And if you get that reference, you're our kind of nerd. So please find us at Beholder Doom at bandcamp.com or on Black Lion Records. We've got our debut album in the Temple of the Tyrant. Tyrant. It's been out for a year now. We have our 2-song single just came out in October, which is called The Tower of the Broken God. And yeah, so we have some stuff, some sounds for your ear holes that you may enjoy. And if you dig it, buy something, please. We have CDs and vinyl. It's really cool shit. What else? I also have some Shadow Dance stuff. If you're into that kind of stuff, progressive power metal. It's on Bandcamp, Shadow Dance, something or other. Bandcamp, I don't know. Just whatever. That's all I got, man. I don't know.
That's the whole website,
dude. I'm
yeah.
I'm terrible at marketing myself.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. Thank you all for listening. If you want to join a community with like-minded players and rhythm enthusiasts, go ahead and jump in our Discord, the Rhythm Dominion, and please share this podcast. Give it a rating, leave a comment, whatever works to get the engagement and let more people know about it. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time.